The year 193 AD was a crazy time in Roman history. It was a period marked by chaos and upheaval, a time when the very fabric of the Roman Empire was being tested. It's called the Year of the Five Emperors, and it was full of fighting and people trying to become the big boss of Rome. The empire was in turmoil, with different factions vying for control, each with their own ambitions and agendas. Emperors came and went quickly, all wanting to rule the giant Roman Empire, which stretched all the way from Britain to the Syrian desert. The vastness of the empire made it difficult to govern, and this period saw rapid changes in leadership. 193 AD was a big turning point for Rome. The political instability and frequent changes in leadership highlighted the weaknesses within the Roman political system. The Pax Romana, a long time of peace, was over and things got shaky. The end of this peaceful era brought about significant challenges, both internally and externally. The Roman Empire in the late 2nd century was complicated. It was a vast and diverse entity, with numerous cultures and peoples under its rule, making governance a complex task. Even though things seemed peaceful, there were problems. Beneath the surface, there were economic troubles, social unrest, and political corruption. Barbarian tribes were pushing at the borders, and inside the empire, important people were fighting for power. The external threats and internal power struggles created a volatile environment. It was like a powder keg waiting to explode. The tension was palpable, and it was only a matter of time before it all came to a head. Then came the five emperors: Pertinax, Didius Julianus, Pescennius Niger, Clodius Albinus, and Septimius Severus. Each of these men had their own vision for Rome and their own methods of achieving power. Each one wanted to be emperor and had their own good and bad points. Their reigns were marked by both achievements and failures, reflecting the complexities of ruling such a vast empire. Their short times as emperor and violent deaths show just how tough it was to be in charge back then. The constant threat of assassination and betrayal was a harsh reality for these leaders. The Year of the Five Emperors wasn't just fighting and killing, it changed Rome forever. The events of this year had long-lasting impacts on the structure and future of the Roman Empire. The old ways, full of corruption and infighting, fell apart. The traditional power structures were dismantled, paving the way for new forms of governance. A new family, the Severans, took over, and they ruled for a long time after. Their dynasty brought about significant changes and left a lasting legacy on the Roman Empire. At the start of 193 AD, the Roman Empire looked peaceful. The streets were bustling with life, the markets were full of goods, and the countryside was serene. It seemed like the empire was at the height of its glory. But under the surface, trouble was brewing. The citizens were growing restless, and a sense of unease was spreading through the streets. Dark clouds loomed over the city, both literally and metaphorically. The emperor, Commodus, was the last of the Antonine family, and he was a big part of the problem. His rule was marked by erratic behavior and poor decisions that alienated many. Commodus wasn't like his wise dad, Marcus Aurelius. While Marcus Aurelius was known for his philosophical insights and fair governance, Commodus was the complete opposite. He was vain and only cared about gladiator fights and showing off. He fancied himself a great warrior, often participating in the gladiatorial games, much to the dismay of the Senate and the people. He wasn't interested in actually running the empire. The administrative duties were neglected, and the once efficient Roman bureaucracy began to crumble. Rome became less moral, and corruption was everywhere. The moral fabric of society was tearing apart, and the once orderly streets were now scenes of frequent conflict and chaos. Commodus had lots of yes-men around him and spent tons of money, leaving the empire broke. Lavish banquets and extravagant spending drained the treasury, causing economic instability. The Senate, the Roman government, hated him. They saw him as a threat to the stability of the empire and were constantly at odds with his decisions. Commodus was paranoid and mean, and he even killed some important senators, making everyone even angrier. Regular people suffered too. His paranoia led to a reign of terror, where anyone could be accused of treason. Commodus messed up the economy, and everything became expensive. Prices soared, and the common people found it hard to make ends meet. The government, once really good, became slow and corrupt. Inefficiency plagued the administration, and corruption was rampant, further deteriorating the state of the empire. As Commodus got worse, people started complaining more and more. Protests became common, and the discontent among the populace grew louder with each passing day. The empire was in trouble. The once mighty Roman Empire was now a shadow of its former self, teetering on the brink of collapse. On New Year's Eve, 192 AD, some people, including Commodus's girlfriend Marcia and a top guard, Quintus Aemilius Laetus, decided to get rid of him. They saw his removal as the only way to save the empire. They strangled him in his bath. The assassination was swift and brutal, marking the end of Commodus's chaotic reign, but instead of fixing things, his death made things even worse. The power vacuum left by his death plunged the empire into further turmoil, setting the stage for even more chaos. When Commodus died, everyone in Rome was shocked. The city was in a state of disbelief and confusion, as the sudden death of the emperor left a power vacuum that needed to be filled quickly. The Senate wanted to fix things and forget about Commodus, so they quickly made Pertinax, a well-respected senator and general, the new emperor. They believed that Pertinax, with his reputation for integrity and competence, could restore stability and order to the empire. Pertinax was a good guy who worked hard to get where he was, very different from Commodus. Unlike his predecessor, he had earned his position through merit and dedication, gaining the respect of both the military and the Senate. He was known for being honest, experienced, and wanting to make Rome great again. His vision for Rome was one of prosperity and justice, where the excesses of the previous regime would be curbed and the needs of the people would be prioritized. Pertinax tried to fix the problems Commodus created. He immediately set about implementing reforms aimed at restoring fiscal responsibility and reducing corruption. He sold Commodus's fancy stuff to get money back and stopped wasteful spending. By auctioning off the luxurious items accumulated by Commodus, Pertinax aimed to replenish the state treasury and demonstrate his commitment to frugality. He also tried to make the army more disciplined and less powerful, especially the Praetorian Guard, the emperor's bodyguards, who were known for being corrupt and causing trouble. Pertinax's efforts to reform the military were crucial as he sought to reduce the influence of the Praetorian Guard and restore discipline within the ranks. But the Praetorian Guard didn't like Pertinax trying to control them. They were accustomed to their privileged position and resented any attempts to curtail their power. They were used to getting bribes and doing whatever they wanted under Commodus. The Guard had thrived under the corrupt practices of the previous regime, and Pertinax's reforms threatened their lucrative arrangements. They saw Pertinax as a threat. His determination to restore order and discipline was perceived as a direct challenge to their authority and way of life. On March 28, 193 AD, after only 86 days as emperor, Pertinax was killed. His short reign came to a tragic end when the Praetorian Guard, feeling cornered and desperate, decided to take drastic action. Some Praetorian Guards attacked the palace because they heard Pertinax was going to get rid of them. The attack was swift and brutal, catching the emperor and his loyalists off guard. The guards he was supposed to command betrayed and killed him. In a cruel twist of fate, the very men who were meant to protect him turned against him, ending his life and his hopes for reform. This made everything in Rome even more chaotic. The assassination of Pertinax plunged the city into further turmoil, leaving the empire once again in a state of uncertainty and fear. During all the chaos, a new leader appeared, Septimius Severus. He was a smart and tough general. He saw his chance and gathered his loyal soldiers. He marched to Rome to become emperor. It was dangerous, but Severus was determined. He knew the empire's future depended on him, so he marched forward, ready to make history. Pescennius Niger, another experienced general, boldly declared he was the real emperor, directly challenging Septimius Severus. This wasn't just about wanting power, it started a big fight. Rome was about to have another civil war, with people picking sides and nobody knowing what would happen next. Clodius Albinus first teamed up with Septimius Severus to stay safe and get more power. But as things changed, so did Albinus's mind. Their alliance broke apart because they didn't trust each other, and both wanted more power. Albinus betrayed Severus, and more fighting broke out, making the empire even less stable. Septimius Severus wanted to leave a lasting mark, so he made sure his family would stay in power. He gave his sons, Caracalla and Geta, important jobs. He wanted to create a dynasty so his family would rule even after he was gone. This wasn't just about power, it was about making the unstable empire more secure. The Year of the Five Emperors was a huge turning point for Rome. It was a time of crazy change, and nobody knew what would happen to the empire. The events of that year changed Rome's government, its army, and how people saw its leaders for a long time after. This period marked the beginning of a new era in Roman history.